And when stars are in light, the weaver, we would know.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Improving Sales Performance livecast. My name is Matt Sunshine. I am the host, and with me today is one of our VP senior consultants at the Center for Sales Strategy, Alina McComas. Alina, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
I am so excited that you're here, and we are going to get to talk about one of my favorite subjects, and I know one of yours, the target drive. But before we get into that, I do want to encourage people to, if you're whether you're watching on LinkedIn or you're watching on YouTube, if you could like, subscribe, and share to our YouTube channel, that would be absolutely fantastic, and we'd really appreciate it if you like the content that you're hearing and seeing, depending on how you're listening. And you want to comment, and you want to join the conversation. We do see the comments. I think we see them live, or at least a few minutes. It might just be a few minutes delayed. I have questions, as always, that I'm prepared to ask Alina. But if anyone else has a question or a comment, feel free to drop it in the comment box, and we'll try to ask those questions. One of the messages I get when we do the improving sales performance, one of the emails or text messages that I get always talks about how what people like about this is that we give them specifics, right? We don't sugarcoat anything. We kind of tell it the way it is, and we don't speak in generalities. We say, okay, here's what we think you should do. Here's what we're seeing other people do. Here's a suggestion. Here's an idea. And I know there's been a lot of anticipation around this particular topic that we're going to talk about today, which is something that we've been doing for years and years and years at the Center for Sales Strategy, called the target drive. And Alina, at least over the past few years, has probably been the one person at our company that has presided over more target drives than anybody else. So Alina, you are the absolute perfect person to be on this live cast. I have a feeling that this is going to be one of those one of these live casts that is replayed again and again and again, as people like to will want to hear this and get a refresher on how do we do them, or why do we need help doing them? Why can't we just do them ourselves? So we're going to jump into all of that. So let's jump in.
Sounds good.
I mentioned target drive a couple of times. Alina, in your words, what is a target drive?
Okay, so the simplest way for me to define a target drive is that it's a sales tactic that is really focused on driving short-term revenue, but also reinforcing the strategy of selling to high priority accounts, and not just selling anything, but selling tailored solutions to high priority accounts using a repeatable sales process, right? So it's pretty strategic in nature from the start, but really focuses on revenue and revenue to the right kinds of accounts.
Okay, so over the last, let's give context here. Over the last 18 months or so, how many target drives have you been a part of in some capacity?
So you can look at it in a couple of different ways, right? The total target drives, kind of all in. I've done about 11 over the last 18 months, with 5 of those focused on an individual market, the others focused on multiple markets. And when we look at those multiple markets, the smallest multi-market that I've been involved with included 10 different markets around the country. The largest included 115 markets in one drive across the country. So if you look at it by drives, it's about 11. If you look at it by total markets, it's just over 550.
Okay, so yeah, so let's look at it. So you've done about 550, because I get it. And if one of our media clients is watching this, they'll understand this. If one company owned either a TV station or a radio station in 10 different cities, and you did one target drive, but each city did a target drive, we're going to look at that as 10 individual target drives. So looking at it like that, the number is about 550. So you have a lot of you have a lot of data, I would think, over all of this stuff. So give us some of the data. How many sales have been made? How much revenue has been generated? And what other data points can you share with us?
Yeah. So the total sales over the last 18 months is just over 127 million. Right. So
that $127 million.
Yeah, just over.
And for the most part, this is new business, right?
For all of the part. It's focused on new business development. Yeah. So all new business.
New business.
127 million new business. A couple of other interesting data points when I look at it, I always want to see, is that revenue being driven by a small group of salespeople, or is it being driven by the larger number of salespeople? And so when I look at our seller activation rate, that's the number of salespeople, their percentage of salespeople that close at least one piece of new business during the drive, we have a seller activation rate of 91% in the target drives that we do. Right. So 9 out of 10 salespeople, just over 9 out of 10 salespeople are closing business, which is pretty significant when you look at 550 markets. Right. So it's not that, 2 people are driving all the revenue and the rest of the sales team isn't participating. We've got a good track record of getting everybody engaged, everybody involved. I think the other interesting data point when you look at what stats can you share, right? One of the things that we know kind of just inherently is that your top performers or the top performers in a target drive typically outperform your contrast performers when it comes to revenue, but they also outperform them significantly when it comes to upstream activity. So in anticipation of our conversation today, I dug into the last 6 groups that I ran a target drive with this year. All right. So it's a pretty big sample size. And I found some really strong correlations between the top performers and the contrast performers. And these are all, I want to make sure that this is said, these are all different market sizes. They're different platforms. So you're looking at, some of these are top 5 markets. You're looking at markets as small as markets in the 190s. So top to bottom, right? But what was interesting is the data, the numbers tell a consistent story. So first, I looked at the number of calls, right? First time discover calls that were made. The top performers averaged 2+ discover calls each week versus the contrast performers delivering 1 or less than 1 a week, right? And some of these groups, those bottom performers, were like 0.5 or 0.6 averaging per week, right? So again, pretty significant difference, 2+ versus 1 or less discover call with a new prospect per week. Then I looked at how they move those accounts through the sales process. And consistently, top performers do a better job here as well. So when you look at top performers, 90% of their discover calls converted in the opportunity to win business or presenting a proposal, right? So for every 10 appointments that they go on, 9 of those, they have the opportunity to win business, whereas the contrast performers only converted 67%, right? So 3 of those calls about are wasted opportunities. So you have like this double-edged sword here where they go on half or even less than half of the number of meetings that your top performers do. And on top of that, 3 out of 10 are wasted because they never move forward in the sales process. So they're not only getting less activity on the front end, but they're not moving them forward either. I also looked at their close percentage from proposal to close. And again, the top performers do a better job of closing business. They close about 50%. As I looked at the top performers in these 6 groups, their close ratio is 50% versus 34% of the contrast performers. But if you look at that a slightly different way, right, because those top performers go out on more discover calls, because they do a better job, right, of moving those to a proposal, right, the divide gets very big very, very quickly, where your top performers in the same time frame closed an average of 7.6 deals per person in that top performer group versus 1.7 deals closed in that bottom. So you can see how, not doing what you need to do at the start of the process just kind of flows through and has, while it doesn't seem like a lot, it's only a difference of 1, right? It's only a difference of 1 call. But when you get to the end of the sales process, it's now a difference between 7.6 and 1.7. Much, much bigger difference.
I want to kind of recap what you just said. And then you correct me if I'm wrong, but Alina, this is the first time I'm hearing these as well. This is absolutely amazing data. So let me recap. Over the last 18 months, you have presided over 550 individual target drives. Mm-hmm. Target drives are focused on selling over how long a period? 90-day, roughly?
Yeah, they average about 8 to 12 weeks.
Okay,
somewhere in there.
8 to 12 weeks. It is a focused effort to drive new business, specifically target account business, not just new, but target account new business. And a target account are just those clients that have the best potential to become key accounts versus just any old sale that you could possibly make.
Yeah.
So target drive, 550 of them over the last 18 months. And you studied the data from the last 6 that you did, correct?
Yeah.
The last 6. And what you learned is that the difference between the top performers and the bottom performers is, number 1, top performers go on 2+ discovery meetings per week, and bottom 1 or less a week. And I think we should point out that these are discovery meetings with prospects, not discovery meetings maybe that are happening with their current clients.
Right.
These are with their prospects. And then of the appointments that the sellers go on, the top performers earn the right to present 90% of the time, where the bottom only 67% of the time.
Yep.
And then the top performers end up closing 50% of their proposals, the bottom 34%. And top performers close during a target drive about 7.6 deals, where bottom performers close just under 1.7 deals.
Yep.
And of these target drives that you've done over the last 18 months, it has generated $127 million, with 91% of the sellers that participated closing at least one deal.
Perfect summary. Nothing to correct.
Alina, that is fascinating. I think managers have always been wondering, what does good look like? Like, what's the difference between top and bottom? We do a great job of studying that when it comes to natural talent. We have the STA and the MTA that does that, and a lot of our clients take advantage of that. But up until right now, I don't think we've ever been able to share that. Here's top performers go on 2+ a week, and bottom performers go on one or less a week.
Oh.
And if you look at the discovery meetings that they're going on, if only 2 out of every 3 end up in a proposal, well, then you're a bottom performer, right? You got to do the basics better. This is fascinating. This is great. I know that Amanda and Shay right now are listening and watching, going, these are blog report, these are blogs, this is a white paper, this is an infographic, we got it all there. It's probably they're gonna have it out next week.
Yeah.
All right, so let's keep going because I have more questions. How is this just different than a new business drive?
Right. So, I think when you summarized a little bit about the target drive, you hit on one of the key components, right? A target drive is really designed to develop high potential business. That target account business that has the potential to become a key account, right? Business that can truly impact the bottom line of the station. I think the other thing about a target drive is again, it follows a proven sales process, where a sales contest is typically focused on just closing anything and everything that meets the criteria of whatever that contest is, right? So if it's new business, whatever you get, a specific product, an event, and a contest, usually by definition, has someone or a singular winner that is the at the top at the end, right? Whereas a target drive doesn't necessarily have to have a singular winner, doesn't necessarily have to have an incentive tied to it in order to be successful. And when it's done in the right way, it's not about closing anybody that'll say yes, but it's about placing that focus again on potential key accounts that can really impact the bottom line. I think the other big difference is because we follow with a target drive a proven sales process, you go beyond just the revenue generation, right? It's about creating good selling habits. It's about identifying the areas where your salespeople get stuck in the sales process, and understanding that information, right? You think about the data that I shared, right? Understanding that information gives managers and sales leaders the opportunity to develop a true coaching roadmap where they can improve performance for their team. And it's not just about, we need more in the funnel, right? I hear that all the time from sales leaders. We just need to put more in the funnel, right? We have a gap. We need to get more in the funnel. We need to get more in the funnel. And it doesn't really matter if you put more in the funnel if the problem is earlier in the sales process where your salespeople are getting stuck, or if you put more in the funnel that you don't ever close, right? It's how do you improve? How do you get those contrast performers? How do we get them to 50% close ratios opposed to 34%? And it's not always just ask for the business. You need to be able to ask for the sale, right? Typically, it's something that's happened earlier in the sales process where your salesperson is falling down, and that's what's causing the revenue not to come.
Yeah, I think when I've heard managers or sales leaders do a new business contest, it typically just cleans out what's in the funnel already, right? It really just helps people get energized. And there's reason to do new business contests. There's nothing wrong with those.
No,
It's just very
time and
different
place.
than just different than a target drive. A target drive, like you said, is about putting the big spotlight on all the steps in the process, from identifying to connecting and getting an appointment, to discovering the desired business results and how to measure success, and bringing back the right solution and closing the bid. It's the entire process that really gets put under in the spotlight, in the sunlight, and allows you to see where the opportunities are, versus a new business contest, which is just what can we close between now and the first day of August, right? I mean,
the way that I think about it, right, both are good at driving revenue, right? They both have that same end result, but you've got to figure out, when you're determining which one is the right fit, right? And you think about what the focus is, you got to think about, is this something that, you know, are we in this position because we've got something new that we've never sold before, that we need to get something on the books, or we've got a specific event that we've got to drive right now? Or are there underlying issues with our team that are causing a consistent gap in our new business development? And if there is something in your team, if you see peaks and valleys with your new business development, right? Like you have one good quarter, you have another bad quarter, and you have a good quarter, and you have a bad quarter, or you're just consistently missing your number quarter over quarter, a target drive is probably a better solution, because there are probably underlying issues that you need to examine and address. And a contest, while it will drive revenue, is not going to get you smarter at understanding where the problems are and how to fix them.
Yeah, good point. New business contests typically are rallied around an event or a new product launch or a new thing, where target drives, nobody's selling targets, right? I mean,
right.
It's not a product. It's a process focus. It's not the product focus. New business drives tend to be product focused. Target drives are process focused. So I did some quick math. I want to ask you about what we expect when we do a target drive, or what sales managers should expect. And I did some quick math, and I just took 127 million divided by 550 individual target drives, $230,000 in new business. Is that the average? And I guess that would be the medium.
Yeah.
Not the mean or the mode. See, I did use it sometime in life. But
I was a science major, not a stat major.
I like stats, not a stat major. So is that what should be expected, about $250,000 per target drive, or the expectation is everybody sells at least one? What is the expectation?
Yeah. So, you know, it's a hard question to answer, because it depends on a lot of things, right? Like, I can give you an average. I can tell you that average, we average just shy of 275,000 when you look at all of the markets, right? It's actually 253, I think, and just over 127 million, which is where the difference in the math comes in, right? So it's about 275. But I've done individual target drives, individual markets, where we've done close to 1.5 million or over 1.5 million, right? So the revenue that you expect to bring in could range quite a bit based on a lot of different things that happen in your market. But I think what you can expect, or what you should expect, is that every salesperson on your team participates. This isn't an optional thing, right? You should expect to see improvement or an increase in activity during a target drive, and you should expect to see an increase in revenue. Even if you focus on new, you should see all of your business lift as a result of the focus and the effort, right? I think when it comes to the expectations of a target drive, again, it depends on the focus you give, the accountability that you implement, what you're focused on, right? The revenue expectations will be different if you're focused on a singular product or platform versus everything that you sell. It also depends a lot on what you track, how you track it, the expectations you give your team, right? So there's a lot of different things, but it's understanding where your team is at and where you need to be, I think is first and foremost.
Yeah, and I guess we should point out the 127 million is the initial contract of every deal, not the lifetime value of
Right.
every deal. In
It's
other
what they
words,
close in that window.
it's what they close in that window. So they close a deal, it's a $75,000 deal that later goes on to spend, $250,000. You're just counting the 75,000 that closed during the target drive. Okay, excellent. So what typically stands in the way of someone of a manager executing a successful target drive?
So it's three simple words that have a lot of pieces to them, right? It's the planning, the focus, and the accountability. If any one of those is not where it should be, right? If you are soft on any one of those areas, you risk your target drive not working, right? So if you don't plan it properly at the start, right? If you're constantly changing things or making accommodations for things, or you didn't think about all of the details before you started, you run the risk of your target drive not working. If you don't give it the right focus, right? If you've constantly got different initiatives that are going on at the same time, or you're not kind of lasered into having the focus and the conversations around the target drive, probably not going to work. Same thing with accountability, right? You've got to hold everybody on your team accountable to participate and the performance, or it's not going to work.
Yeah. So someone had asked the question of what are the elements of the target drive. I think from a leadership standpoint, it's making sure that you've done the proper planning, you have the correct focus, and that you've put the accountability measures in place. From a seller's point of view, it's making sure that you're implementing the sales process at the highest level, identifying correctly, connecting correctly, getting the appointment, doing really quality discovery meetings, following up with a good solution, closing that business, and ultimately growing the account. So last question for you. And what advice would you give to someone if they wanted to do their own target drive? And maybe while you're answering this question, you could also speak to the accountability piece and how you track success during a target drive.
Yeah. So the first thing is take the time to really plan a successful drive. Think about the goal that you're going to assign, not only for your team, but for each individual on your team. You want to give it a stretch, but you don't want to make it so hard that your team checks out before they even begin, right? So the revenue goals are important, and who's going to lead the charge, especially if you've got multiple managers. What's the role that each manager, each sales leader will play throughout the target drive? But also take a look at the calendar, right? Make sure that nothing is standing in the way. Make sure you don't have events that are going to take away the focus during a target drive. Plan the details, right? Take the time to do that, put a theme around it, have some fun with it, determine if you're going to have incentives, all of those little details. Make sure you have them buttoned up before you start, right? This isn't something that you want to start and then change 2 weeks in. So you want to make sure that everybody understands what their expectations are. Part of the accountability component is making sure that everybody knows what they're going to be held accountable to. So making sure that they know what the expectations are and track and report frequently, right? If you track a lot of things, but you don't ever share it, then it doesn't really matter. You might as well not track it, right? So when I'm doing a target drive, the things that I like to track are pending revenue, closed revenue. I like to look at the upstream activity. So for every target account that a seller claims, where are they at with that account in the sales process. And so I look at the key moments along the sales process. I look at identify, I look at discover, I look at advise, and I look at close, because I want to see where are they getting stuck in the sales process? How long do they take to move an account through the sales process? And I share that with markets all the time, right? When I do my tracking, I not only have it by individual, but I also look at the market as a whole. I'll give them graphs that show, each individual person and their activity through the process and their revenue through the process, looking at what they have pending, and looking at all of those pieces. And so when you're having conversations, when I'm having conversations with sales leaders, I'm holding them accountable to, what's going on over here? What's going on with this person? How come they're so much slower, right? What are the successes that you've had? What are the opportunities? What are the challenges? You can drive a lot of accountability just by having the conversation consistently, right? So from a sales leader standpoint, you want to have conversations with each one of your account executives every single week during a target drive, right? What's going on with each of your target accounts? Where are they at in the sales process? What are the next steps you're going to take this week to move this piece of business forward? How can I help you move this forward in the sales process? Making sure they're not holding on to pieces of business for too long without any forward progress. That's all accountability without beating them over the head and telling them, what are you doing? Like, why haven't you closed anything yet, right? Have the conversations in between. Don't let them go too long, because you can hide a lot of bad behavior if you're only talking to them about it every 2 or 3 weeks.
Yeah, no, Alina, this is an amazing topic. The work that you've done helping clients to drive revenue is phenomenal. $127 million in new business over during a pandemic.
Yeah.
Right, the last 18 months. All right, so I'm certain there are going to be people that want to continue to have this conversation with you. Shay will put up where people can get a hold of you up on the screen through LinkedIn. Just connect with Alina and message her, and she'll be happy to talk to you about any of this stuff. Also, remember that all of what we've been talking about in this season of the Improving Sales Performance all centers around the impact sales leadership system, which is, people, process, planning, and performance. If you want to learn more about impact, or we even have some free courses that you're more than welcome to take, go to the URL that you see up on the screen, css.buzz/impact, all in capital. You have to put it in capital, all in capital. Alina, you've been an amazing guest. Next week, Tuesday, next week, we're talking about sales planning and sales calendar with a longtime friend of the Center for Sales Strategy, a guy by the name of Victor Giacomelli, who's been a client over the years at a couple different places, and now is currently the managing director of ads and research for SoCast Digital. So we're excited to welcome him next week. And again, if you've enjoyed the content, if you could subscribe, and share on our YouTube channel, we really appreciate it. Everyone, have a great long weekend, and we'll see you on the next episode.
Thank you.